Throughout this whole process, there's been this piece of rubber here, and I don't know if it's from the factory or if it's been from the previous owner, like filling this up with something so that it doesn't rust. But it's been in my way, so I'm going to try and get rid of it with some channel locks. But I really don't think it matters much. It's almost like it's over a piece of steel. I honestly really don't think it matters, so I'm just going to leave it be for now. Maybe tear off bits of it. But I still have to remove this piece of steel right here, this little bit. And then I should be able to move on to the replacement piece. I'm going to try using this regular hammer and see if I can get the claws under this piece. It's not really working. If I use it to do that, it's going to pull this away. So let me try using this screwdriver. It's really tiny, and placing it in here. Then trying to do this without messing with the actual steel I want to keep. That matters. This really doesn't matter. At least looks wise. It matters to the car, but it doesn't matter what it looks like because it's behind the fender and you really can't see it. Alright, so I'm going to cut that with the Dremel. Alright, so the Dremel's all set up. Let me do a little cutting. I'm hitting this stuff with the Dremel a little bit, and it smells really bad. So I have no idea what it is. Let me see if I can pull that off with the channel locks. Because I have cut it quite a bit, but I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it off yet. Let me go back to this. You can see when I hit that stuff, it's actually really kind of smoky, so I don't know. There's that. That's gone. You can see that's gone now, so it shouldn't really be bothering me anymore. So let me hit everything kind of back where it should be, and we'll move on to the replacement panel. When I did this, I used a black Sharpie to outline my lines, but now it's getting really hard to see against the black paint, so I've got a red one, and I'm going to see if I can outline it any easier. I have extended the lines because of that extra bit I had to cut, so it's a little bigger there, but I'm also going to extend them here because my cutting got a little out of hand towards the side. Other than that, it seems like we're good to go. Now when I cut this, I am going to cut on the outside of the lines because I always want extra steel to work with. You never want too little steel. You always want to have to grind down, not add. So now I'm going to cut on these red outlines that I've made to get the repair piece all fit up, and then I'm going to start fitting it to the hole in the body. because I know there's going to be a little bit of difference between the two, but that's always alright because that's what happens with all patch panels normally. So the Dremel's all set up, I've got a new disc on it, and we're going to start cutting. So I got it roughly cut out with the angle grinder instead of the Dremel so I could get the cuts done faster. So now I just have to grind down and use the Dremel to get the right curves and stuff on it. Like I said before, I'd like to add a few more welds to these bolt holes because they do break off very easily because there's only 4 welds that are very light in each of the corners. So I'm going to add a few more to that, and then I'm going to place it on the car, get it a little more fitted, and then start welding. You can see now that I've got it all ground down and magneted in place. So I can begin welding. So I'm going to lay a few tacks down here, and maybe right here, just to keep it in place for now. You can see how well those magnets really helped with holding it in place for the welds. Now it's definitely on there and I can start beating on it. But I'm going to lay a few more tacks down just to be safe. You can see I've tack welded it on here, and it's on there really solid. I also took a body hammer that I got from Amazon and hit it right here, and it's fitting pretty well up right there. Now I will have to fill this gap in, but since this gap is pretty much on the inside, it won't really matter what it looks like. But I will try to make it as nice as I can. So, let me do a few more tack welds, over here probably, down here, and then I'll start fabricating a piece for this. Before I can do any welding here though, I'm going to have to clean up the seams. So I got my grinder, and I put this flapper disc on it. And that's normally not what you would use to take paint off, but right now, I can't find my wire wheel one, and it's what I got, so I'm going to use it. And it seemed to work pretty good here. So you can see that rubber undercoating really messed with this grinder. It gunked up the whole thing, and I would definitely try to find a better attachment to use than a flap disc, because it really messes it up. But at the moment, that's all I've got. I do think they manufacture paint removal discs, that might be better, but like I said in a few other videos, I would definitely try to get rid of all that undercoating before you do any work. But since I'm making my car a driver, I'm going to leave it on there because I really don't want to mess with it. I'm going to throw a few more tacks on over here, and then I'll start fabricating the piece for right here. I've moved you guys in a little closer so you can get a better view of the welding. You can see that I'm pulling the weld from here to over here, and it's making it pretty solid on there. You can see now when I move down here, it's not moving up here. That's very good. I'm going to throw a few more tacks on, and then, like I said, fabricate this. That is not the first time that has happened to me. This undercoating does light on fire pretty easily. Now I'm going to hit it with the body hammers again and try to get the shape fit up. Here's the type of hammer I'm using. It's kind of like a bullet on the end. Like I've said before, it really doesn't matter what the inside of this looks like, since you probably will be undercoating it. However, if you're trying to make it look a little better, you might want to try and get your seam lines lined up a little better. I am going to try and make this look as nice as I possibly can, because this is on the outside of the car, in front of the fender, so you will see it. I'm trying to get this pretty much lined up with the seam over here, so that I can put a tack here, because it is a little wobbly because it's not welded down there. I'm going to see if I can put a bead there. Not a bead, but a spot that's going to be kind of like a bead. You can see, since I don't have a place to put the ground clamp, I've attached a welding clamp to the piece and then the ground clamp to that. I'm hoping that'll work pretty well because there is no place for me to put this ground clamp anywhere else. Well, it was successful. I was able to get a tack right here and this thing is on there solid. There's no way that is coming off. So now I can do a lot more body work and make more patches to fill all these gaps. Now I'm going to apply a few more tack welds here to make this weld a solid weld. I'm also going to apply more here, here, and here because I need to add more strength to this panel. After that, I'm going to make more welds here. They're going to be more than tacks because I'm going to have to draw them out from here to here and also here and here. This I'm going to leave for another time to fill with a piece of steel because I am not going to be able to weld that closed. I might be able to try, but it's not going to go as well as putting a piece of steel there. So I'm going to weld a little more and let the camera roll. Alright, so I welded along here and here, and now I'm going to pull these off and do some grinding, and then do a little more welding to fill in any additional holes. So I got my grinder all set up with a brand new flap disc. You're going to want to use one of these because it's a whole bunch of different pieces of sandpaper, and it's really good at bringing down welds really quickly. So let me start grinding down some welds. That right there is what you're looking for when you grind down a weld. You can't really tell where I welded, and these holes are all that remains of the weld. I'm going to fill these in, and this is going to be good right here. Now on these bottom welds, you can see where the weld was, and it's actually got a little bit of a dip in it. But that's okay, because I've got this body filler that I'm going to put in here after I prime it, and it's going to smooth it out to where it's equal with this surface. There's going to be a whole video about how to properly use body filler coming up in the future. So we have this gap here between the replacement panel and the original panel, and that's from when I was making my template off the original panel. It did get a little messed up for the replacement, but I'm going to try and fill this with weld as much as possible, and then make a very small replacement panel if I can't fill this whole thing with weld. So let me get started welding on this and film it. I'm going to have to take a break welding now because I'm getting the metal really hot, and when you get the metal hot, it's going to start blowing through much easier. So I'm going to stop welding for a minute, take a break, do something else in the car. Just let this weld cool, because you don't want the metal super hot when you're welding. You do want it warm. You don't want cold steel to weld on, but you don't want really, really hot steel. Alright, time to get back to welding. Suggested that I fill this hole with weld instead of making a patch panel for it, so I figured I'd give it a go. It turned out really well. You can see there are a few holes in it, but I'm going to grind this down and then fill those holes with weld again. So let me start grinding. Those holes are going to be much easier to fill than that big hole that was there before. You can see there's a few little ones and this kind of bigger one here. Those will be really easy to fill with the welder. It is a little bit warped here, but this is on the inside of the car and this is the outside. So it is a little bit warped here, but the body filler should fill that in because it is less than 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go get the welder, weld in these holes, regrind them down, and make sure it looks really good. Alright, so I filled up all of these welds. Now to get the grinder out and grind them down and see how it looks. Now there was a lot more welding and grinding that I did than I showed here. I had to do multiple passes of welds and then grind them down to fill in all the little holes. And because of the grinding, it was making bigger holes when the steel got thin. If you do this repair, or any repair like it, remember to not grind too much steel because it will get really thin and your welds will blow through much easier. Alright guys, I'm going to call this thing done. There are still a few holes here and there and some welds that need to be ground down, but that'll be really easy to fix with the welder and the grinder. Now here, I can tell I'm going to have to put some body filler there because these two pieces of steel aren't at the same height. I'm going to do a whole video on how to properly do that because body filler is done improperly on a lot of cars and it makes it crack and paint falls off and it does not look good at all. So I'm going to do a whole video on how to properly use body filler. On top of the steel that was here before, I put some sealing primer. I used Rust-Oleum because I'm not going to use top quality stuff because I'm making a daily driver. But there are definitely a lot of high quality sealing primers. They're called epoxy primers that you can use to seal up the bare steel so that rust doesn't get to it. And you're going to want to put the body filler on top of the sealing primer so that water doesn't get under the body filler and it cracks. But it looks really good right now. I'm going to fix a few of these things, grind these welds down, and it should look perfect once I get the body filler on there. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope that it helped you fix your car up. You can see on my car that it looks really good. I've just got to do a bit more grinding and add a little bit of filler. If you liked the video, hit the like button, and if you're interested in more content like this, please subscribe because I've got more restoration videos coming. Everything that needs to be done to this car that I can film, I'm going to film. So once again, thank you so much for watching the video, and goodbye!